The 2022 Winter Olympics is abuzz with excitement. Besides coaches and athletes, some 20 foreign heads of state, members of royal families, and heads of international organizations are attending the event. Daren Tang, the Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization, is among the dignitaries who arrived on Thursday and spoke with me for an exclusive interview. The intellectual property system and trademarks in particular play a pivotal role in safeguarding the symbolism of the Olympic Games. Mr. Tang explains the link between sports and intellectual property protection, and he also discusses his busy plans in the city of Beijing. Mr. Director General, what a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule during your Beijing stay.
It's a pleasure to be on your program and an honor to be with everyone in Beijing for the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
And also happy the Year of the Tiger to you and all your colleagues at WIPO.
Thank you very much. Also want to wish all of you 新春快乐，虎年吉利。
给您拜年，谢谢，谢谢。So, Mr. Director General, the Olympic Games is already underway. How would you understand the relationship between intellectual property right protection and sports?
Well, the connection actually goes back quite a long way. I don't know many of your viewers know this, but there's a WIPO treaty called the Nairobi Treaty that specifically protects the famous 5-ring symbol of the Olympics. And then this protection allows us to, allows IOC to also use it to find partners. And as over the next few days, as we watch these amazing sportsmen and sportswomen compete in all these games, when we watch these broadcasts live, IP protects the underlying content of these live broadcasts and allows for the commercialization of these broadcast rights. And in fact, it's become a very important revenue source for many international sporting organizations. For the IOC, the Olympic broadcast rights is almost 70% of their revenue. And of course, if you think about IP and sports, many of the sports brands have become famous brands around the world. For example, Li Ning, or famous football clubs like Guangzhou Hengda or Manchester United. These are all very famous brands. And technology now has become quite an important part in sport as well. For example, when you watch the Olympic Games or Olympic competitions, you will see a lot of technology used to decide whether the ball is in and out of the court. So technology, brands, and broadcast rights, they all combine to form a very important part of sports rights, and IP is part of that. And in fact, I think just a few years ago, these sports rights have amount to about $50 billion US. And in a few years' time, right, it's predicted that they will amount to $85 billion US. So we hope that IP rights can support international sporting organizations, allow them to earn revenue, and in return, right, support the sportsmen and sportswomen to support these sporting activities.
With the WIPO's important role for the Olympic movement, I'm sure you're going to be a very busy person during your trip here in Beijing for the 2022 Olympic Games. So how are you planning your days?
Well, I'll be meeting with, of course, many different important dignitaries, both in China as well as international dignitaries. I'll also be enjoying the opening ceremony of the Olympics. I'm looking forward to that. The last time I was in Beijing was about 4 or 5 years ago in very different circumstances. And then, of course, I'll be looking forward to celebrating the Olympic spirit with everyone. This is really truly a special occasion that we can host the games even in the midst of such difficult challenges. And of course, enjoying the nice winter air in Beijing. As coming from Geneva, of course, it's also cold over there. But it's very special to have this atmosphere and the spirit of Chinese New Year as well.
Mr. Director General, the UN Secretary General earlier suggested that we are experiencing together the most challenging time since the Second World War. So how is that having an impact on your work? How do you see your role of WIPO?
Well, indeed, the pandemic has disrupted lives and livelihoods around the world. So the first thing we need to do is to help member states overcome the pandemic. And so WIPO has put together a package of COVID-19 support to help member states build the capabilities and technology transfer and other technical skills, right, so that they can absorb the technologies and use the technologies to help overcome the pandemic. We also have cooperated with the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization in a trilateral cooperation, 3 agencies, where we will bring our expertise in IP, trade, and health together. Because overcoming the pandemic is not just about one factor, but many factors working well together. So as you can see, we are trying to work by ourselves as well as with other UN agencies, other international organizations, help member states overcome the pandemic. But at the same time, I think there's also a lot of opportunities that have risen. We find that in these last 2 years, even though there have been a lot of disruptions to the economy, IP and innovation remain very resilient parts of the economy for many countries, for China's economy, for the global economy. For example, even in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, global research and development expenditure grew. Global venture capital deals grew as well. And last year, right, IP filings grew. And in fact, trademark filings increased by 14%, which is very high. And the reason for that is that a lot of businesses are using this pandemic as an opportunity to transform their business, to go online, to find new avenues using virtual and e-commerce avenues to grow their business. And I think here's something where we want to help these businesses to take use of these opportunities. And so WIPO's focus for the next few years will be on helping small and medium enterprises, entrepreneurs, innovators, researchers, right, to use the IP system to transform their ideas into something that is tangible, to bring their ideas to the market. And we hope that that's something that we can help, not just at the company level, but even at the global level, help member states to use IP as a very powerful tool to create jobs for business growth, attract investments, grow their economy, and create vibrant societies.
But at the same time, you see that the world is very much going to be driven by innovation, Mr. Director General. The developing countries, emerging economies, particularly the developed ones and the least developed ones, how would they be able to catch up with the trends?
I think, in fact, what we are seeing over the last few decades is a very interesting trend. Innovation is no longer just coming from developed countries, but increasingly it's being driven, right, as a global phenomenon. Let me just give you some examples. 20 years ago, 4 out of 10 IP applications came from Asia. Last year, 7 out of 10 IP applications came from Asia, not just from Northeast Asia, China, Japan, and Korea, Republic of Korea, but also from Southeast Asia, from India, from South Asia, and increasingly from Central Asia. And of course, beyond Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, IP filings and innovation activities are growing at a very strong pace. So I think what's happening is that more and more countries are using IP and innovation to grow their economies because they're beginning to realize that IP is a very powerful catalyst for jobs, for business growth, for economic development, and for social vibrancy. And we want to help them to achieve that. So let me give you one example. Just last year, in Mexico, there's a state called Oaxaca, and the state of Oaxaca is a community called San Pedro de Callanos. They produce silk, which of course came from China, but now it's become a worldwide product. And the community in Oaxaca in Mexico have asked us for help to see how they can use this opportunity to use IP to promote their silk, promote their unique way of creating silk. These are indigenous communities. So we are going down to the ground to help least developed countries and developing countries to use IP in a very practical way at the grassroots level, right? To transform ideas into the market and to help entrepreneurs, innovators, creators at the ground level, at the grassroots level, to use IP to earn a living and to take their ideas to the market.
That is certainly a great idea, Mr. Director General. You talk about some of the latest reports put out by WIPO. Some of those reports I was reading earlier suggesting that Asia has become such a birthplace of intellectual property globally. It is actually leading on the list. How do you see the current situation, and where is Asia? Since you yourself is originally coming from Asia as well, how do you see the Asian culture with the idea of innovation?
I strongly believe that innovation belongs to everyone. Mm-hmm. We as a human species, we are by nature innovative and creative. And innovations that have contributed to world culture have come from every part of the world. So I think that when the IP system becomes globalized, and I think that's what's happening now, increasingly IP growth is being driven by many different engines, and Asia's emerged as a major engine. I think the world will be a better place for it because good ideas can come from anywhere. And my job as the head of the UN agency in charge of IP is to help innovators from anywhere in the world use IP to take their ideas to the market and make a positive contribution to the world. And in terms of growth in Asia, I think, coming from Asia, of course, I think it's very interesting. Coming from Southeast Asia, from Singapore, we've had a chance to see this amazing growth. Southeast Asia's emerged as a major place for unicorns, for technology, for smart cities, for digitalization. But the same story is being played out all over the world in Africa and Latin America. So I think what I think will happen is that these trends will continue because the beauty of innovation is that it can come from anywhere. And so we hope that these trends will continue, and then we hope that we will harness all these trends for the betterment of mankind. Because in the end, the global challenges that we face, climate change, inequities, the pandemic, right, can only be solved when we tap on good ideas from anywhere in the world. So we hope that will continue, and we hope that we can support that global growth in IP.
Thank you so much, Mr. Director General. What a pleasure talking to you. I hope you have a great stay in Beijing during the Winter Olympics.